Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here. We have special guest, Richard Eskow from the Zero Hour is here. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Jimmy.
Everybody check out the Zero Hour. Where is it?
www.patreon.com/the0hour.
All right. I've been a guest on that show. You can go hear me making scrambled eggs on that show.
You were making scrambled eggs. You didn't think I'd hear you. Then I was like, what, are you cooking? Are you cooking while we talk?
I had headphones on. I was doing his show during headphones, but, I have a lot of things to do, so I had to eat and get to another meeting or whatever. So I'm like, well, I don't want to end this interview, so I'll just cook some scrambled eggs. And the way I cook them is I get really violent with the pan.
Yes. It's
it was like, and I didn't think it would picked up, but he heard it.
So what's that? That's cooking.
So guess what? We've been talking about net neutrality. The Trump administration has gutted net neutrality. There is no more net neutrality, meaning that internet providers can screw over small websites and make them pay big fees and then fast track certain content and screw over the independent content. So it's not good for freedom of speech and for getting ideas. This is not good. So in California, we have a supermajority of Democrats in our legislature and a Democratic governor, so we can pass the Democrats can pass anything they want. So they were a guy named Weiner, who's a state senator here in California, wrote up a nice net neutrality bill. And then when it went to committee, it got through unorthodox procedures, it got gutted. And do you remember the lawmaker?
Nigel Santiago.
Santiago was the head of the committee, and he's a state senator from right here in Assemblyman. I'm sorry, right here in Los Angeles, and so he gutted it. And now they're getting back together. So now the progressives went nuts. It was like that Cory Booker deal. You remember when Cory Booker voted against Bernie Sanders' reimportation bill? We're going to reimport drugs from Canada. It would be half the price if we did that. Cory Booker voted against it, and everybody went nuts. Oh, now people are awake. Normally he could get away with that vote. He can't anymore. Same thing with Santiago. Santiago thought he was going to be able to screw over net neutrality because he takes money from AT&T, and then everybody caught on to it, and he was like, oh, God, okay, all right, we'll fix it. Mm-hmm. And so now this is what's happening. California net neutrality bill to ban zero rating after lawmakers reach a deal. On Thursday, Santiago and Weiner, Santiago the bad legislator and Weiner the good one, Santiago and Weiner announced a deal that allows for much of what was taken out of the bill to be put back into the legislation, ensuring California has the strongest net neutrality protections in the nation, according to their offices. Weiner introduced SB 822 in January after the Federal Communications Commission voted to overturn regulations adopted by the agency in 2015 under the Obama administration that banned companies from blocking or slowing down of internet traffic. So that's such bad writing. I just can't tell you how that's just horrible writing. It's so confusing. I don't know. It shouldn't even. This isn't a writing class. It's not a writing class, but Jesus Christ. It needs some work. Yeah. Jesus Christ. You have an editor at the San Francisco Chronicle? Jesus. Among the provisions removed by Santiago's committee and now placed back into the bill is a ban on a controversial practice known as zero rating, where some websites and apps don't count against the consumer's data allotment in an effort to steer traffic to those. So what that means is all data. So let's say you have Verizon is your carrier. They might say, well, any videos that come from our Verizon website, that doesn't count towards your data allotment. So they're getting rid of that. Now all data is going to be treated the same. That's what this means.
And, for anyone that's been following all of our coverage on it so far, this was what I predicted we were likely going to lose. So the compromise actually went better than I expected it to.
Yeah, so it looked horrible. When Santiago got a hold of this bill, he gutted it, and it looked like it was going to be screwed over. But now this really looks like something's happening. Yeah. Something good could happen. Zero rating is opposed by those who say it leads to a pay-to-play system that gives a competitive advantage to big companies. However, zero rating supporters argue that the free allowances benefit lower-income communities.
Which isn't true.
Okay, Ron says that's not true. A separate net neutrality bill, SB 460, by Senator Kevin De Leon, he's going up against Dianne Feinstein, right? Mm-hmm. A Democrat from Los Angeles will also move forward as part of the deal after it's stalled in Santiago's committee. That bill, so this is another net neutrality bill in California, that bill requires the internet companies that contract with the state to comply with the state's net neutrality protections in order to receive taxpayer money. So if you are an internet provider and you want to provide internet to like state colleges or whatever, you have to go along with the net neutrality rules.
Right. Yes.
Or else you're not allowed to be anywhere in California, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Opponents of SB 822 have argued that the bill would create conflicting state-by-state regulations for the telecommunications industry, and what that gets is the double CK.
Yes. Exactly, because what that is corporate speak for is, hey, we don't want to have to follow net neutrality laws. Because let's say we do win this in California, and California passes a strong net neutrality law. Let's say New York does too. Well, that's about 43% of the customer base in the country almost. So they can't do anything to price gouge with the loss of net neutrality. So that's what that's saying.
Right.
That's what that's really code for.
So,
if we have to follow stuff state by state. No, what they're saying, some states are going to have net neutrality.
Yeah.
I thought they were saying it was too complicated to know what the rules are for each and every individual state, to which I was just going to say, well, look it up on the internet.
Yeah.
Right? It's all...
Yeah, so they're trying to say, it'll be so confusing for us.
I don't know,
banks
I'm sorry, Jimmy, to interrupt, but the banks do this too. It makes me so mad. It's like you're making billions of dollars. Spring for a few bucks for people to read the rules.
Hire an expert.
Yeah.
Hire an expert in the law in each state. Hire one guy who knows what the law is in each state. That's 50 guys. That's all you need to do, Comcast. Hire 50 guys, one in each state. So that's why that's a BS. That's why that gets the double CK. A little bit, there's the last paragraph of this article. It says the amended bill announced today will be heard in the Assembly Appropriations Committee after lawmakers return from summer recess in August. So this isn't a done deal. They've just rewritten the bill, and they have to resubmit it. The legislature has until August 31st to pass the bill and send it to Governor Jerry Brown for consideration. I predict it will not be half as good as it is right now.
Yeah, there's still time. I mean, this is good news. Like, this is certainly good news.
Right.
But A, there's still time. And B, let's say we pull out a win here. That's going to be huge. That's going to save net neutrality. But we still got to push for nationwide broadband, because otherwise we're going to have to do this again in 3 more years.
Yeah, you're right. But I think if California gets it, that'll set the trend for the rest of the country.
Oh, absolutely.
And people will tell their lawmakers, how come we can't have what California has, which is the way it should be.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do we know if Brown would sign it?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, the Democrats control the whole goddamn state. They're not very progressive. They're pro-frackers here in California. They're not for single payer here in California. We don't have free college. We've had a supermajority. We don't have free college. This is the 5th largest economy in the fucking world. Mm-hmm. Right? This isn't just a little state. We're a big deal.
And California used to have free college. My mom went to Berkeley. She's a native Californian. I said, wasn't it free college? She said, well, there was a $25 annual fee for, office processing or something. So it was essentially free. And so it's not like it's some crazy radical, utopian idea that we had until 1959.
Most of the people went to college. Well,
it was Ronald Reagan, really.
Ronald Reagan came in and said,
so
they
69.
said, why are you starting to charge tuition to people who want to go to college in your state? That's going to suppress the amount of people who get to go to college. And he said, why? Yeah, but they vote Democrat. Why should I subsidize the people who are going to vote against me? So if you get an education, you're going to know about how things work, and you're no way you're going to vote for Ronald Reagan. That's what he was implying, which is fucking true. Right. Unless you're super rich and you know how things work, and then you're going to vote for Ronald Reagan. But if you're middle class or poor and you know how things work and you still vote for Ronald Reagan, you're a fucking idiot, or you've been duped.
You mean Saint Ronald Reagan?
By the way,
beloved Ronald Reagan.
Same thing for Bill Clinton. By the way, same thing for Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. Barack Obama's recovery. Do you know what the recession happened? So the big crash. Barack Obama's recovery, the bottom 80% lost money.
I know that.
You knew that? I just found this out.
Well, no, I do, but that's what I do. I write about this stuff.
This was the first recovery where the bottom. So it used to be the capitalism is based on a business cycle, which is boom and bust. So within 10 years, there's always going to be a bust, which means there's going to be incredible pain on a lot of people. That's normal. That's supposed to happen. What a crazy system. But when we would have when you come out of a recession, you have an expansion, and it used to be that the bottom 90% would get most of the money or most of the gains of the recovery, and the upper 10% wouldn't. Now it's switched. Now the upper 10% get almost all the gains of the recovery. In fact, with Barack Obama, the bottom 80% lost. Well, you tell me, you know that.
Yeah, no, that is true. That the bottom 80% slipped behind. And as you go up, there was an article in the Atlantic a couple months ago that everybody was circulating around that said it's not the top 1%, it's the top 10%. It's actually not the top 10%. It's the top 1%, it's the top 0.1%, it's the top 0.01%. As you go up the pyramid, they have more and more power.
Yes.
And these are the people who are really polluting our democracy. These are the people who have benefited way inordinately from the recovery, not just here, but around the world.
And as FDR said, these are the people who treat the government as it's their own personal appendage.
Right.
And it should do their bit. And that's where we are. I mean, that's when you see a guy like, remember, what was his name? Klubeck? Klubeck, the Democratic guy who went on MSNBC and said, I'm going to cut off their money if Nancy Pelosi keeps calling us billionaires and millionaires in a derogatory way. I'm going to cut their money off. So he's telling the elected officials what they're supposed to do and what they're not going to do, because I'll give you money, and that gives me more power. That's exactly how it works. Anyway, somehow we were talking about net neutrality, and we got onto this.
The one silver lining here, getting back to Governor Jerry Brown, there's going to be a hell of a lot of public pressure on him to sign this thing. I mean, look at what happened to Santiago. So
yeah, but Governor Brown's not looking for another. I mean,
that's true.
He backed Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders.
It's true.
Jerry Brown. Okay, so Jerry Brown has come. What is it about these guys who lose it at the end of their life, right? Like Jerry Brown. Who was the Tom? Who's the anti-war guy? Used to be married to Jane Fonda.
Oh, Tom Hayden.
What happened? Tom Hayden. Same thing. End of his life.
You know what I think happens, actually, is I think people get culturally identified with these are my people. You know what I mean? You start out, because I see this a lot, people who are like great radicals in the 60s.
Yes.
And were pushing fantastic ideas. And then they get to, they've spent 30 years having dinner with the Clintons. And, I'm sure Hillary and Bill can sound super progressive when you're having cocktails with them or whatever. And they're bright people and all that. And they get very comfortable with them. And then a bunch of like scruffy people come along and say, we kind of think this sucks. We really, this business of all the gains, from the recession going to the top 1% while everybody else is struggling and the planet is dying and all that. We kind of oppose all that stuff a little bit more heatedly than you do. And then I think there's attitude of, well, who do you think you are? I've been doing this for 50 years.
Yeah.
How dare you tell me how to do what I've been doing? And I must be succeeding because look how many people know my name.
Yep.
I think that's what happens.
It's a sad what's happened in California. Here's your that's what I say to Bernie. Here's your supermajority. Here's Democrats have complete control. Government, they have the governor, they have the state senate, the state assembly, and still we don't have single payer. Still we don't have free college. Still we don't have net neutrality. This is your big Democratic experiment. So if we get all the blues in the world elected, Bernie, shit ain't going to happen. Still. We still have to fight the Democratic Party to get stuff done. These are my questions for Bernie.
I'll bet he would tell you that he knows that.
And?
Yeah, well,
And what's your... I would love... I guess I'll never know because he won't come on the show. I guess we'll never know because Bernie won't come on a progressive show, but he'll do every goddamn neoliberal show in the fucking world because no one likes to be out-lefted. Hey, please make sure you're subscribed. Even if you think you are, you probably are. It only takes a second to check. And then click that bell to make sure you get a notice every time we drop a video. They won't tell you every time anyway, but it's the only thing we can do to fight back against the bastards. So please make sure you're subscribed and click that bell. And our next live show is July 15th in Chicago. And after that, July 27th in Burbank, California. Special guest on that show, Abby Martin. And if you could become a patron, that would be fantastic. We give you hours of bonus material every week. Thanks for your support.